I want to give you an overview of the perfect tense in a perhaps slightly different way from Mounce. Hopefully it supplements it or adds to it. I'd like to think of it in more of a simple way. In other words, then, what you look for is the reduplication of the stem, or rather the initial consonant of the stem, so that with luo, that lambda is going to be reduplicated, and then there's that augment that's put in there too, the epsilon. So luo, lues, lue, and so on. It's going to be le, lu. In other words, the stem with the reduplication, and then the kappa is recognizing the perfect is put right the way through in terms of the endings. So luo is going to be le luca, le lucas, le luken, le lucamen, le lucati, lucasin. You can see from that then, once you know the duplication of the first consonant, then you can work out the rest. And that's true also for, that's perfect active, perfect middle and passive, exactly the same. Le lumai, le lusai, le lutai, le lumitha, le luste, le luntai. Now, then when you have a verb, say, that ends in its stem with an epsilon, I'm thinking of the verb we've come across a lot, phileo, then what happens there is that the reduplication occurs with a phi, but it's too obtuse, I think, to say fefil. So it's you can frequently work it out as well as learn the sort of the paradigm in respect to these constants. Phi, the reduplication is pi, so it's pe fil aka, and so forth. So the principal parts of phileo would be phileo, phileso, philekitsa, pephileika, and then ephilethen for the aorist passive. So actually we've done now all the principal parts now that we've brought in the verb, the perfect tense, and so forth. So then, in summary, then you can see what you have at first then is reduplication of the initial consonant of the verb, of this verbal stem, and then that's tacked to the stem in respect to also the epsilon that's put in there, so that the reduplication of the consonant with the epsilon then is added to the verbal stem, and then the kappa at the end will signify that this is going to be perfect with the endings that go along with it. I think that once you learn that, that's fairly straightforward. Luo, leluca, pistuo, pepistuca, and so forth. Now, verbs that end in a chi and a phi and theta then will reduplicate in respect to the initial phi will be pi and theta will be tau. So phileo, as we've said, is pephileika, and therapeuo, I heal, would be te therapeuka. Verbs that end in a zeta or a psi or a sigma then are simply frequently elongated to simply the augment with the epsilon, so that zeteo, which is I seek, is a taker, and akolutheo, which begins with a vowel, there would be lengthened to then an eta, so etheluketeka, ekolutheka, excuse me. And likewise, eteo I asked for, which is two vowels put together. The alpha and the iota then is lengthened to the eta, and then there's an iota subscript in there, so it's going to be eteka. So the key to recognize it is going to be certainly the kappa at the end for the first perfect. And then also you look at the beginning and you see, you get a while, after a while, you can obviously see a consonant, whether it's a basic consonant like a lambda, or whether it's a consonant like theta that would take a tau. You recognize, you see the augment there and the reduplication of the consonant. And if that's not the case, then you have to start guessing if you don't know what the verb is. By guessing, I mean thinking about whether it's an elongated vowel, as in an alpha to an eta and so forth, or whether it's just a verb that has the beginning consonant like a zeta that just takes the epsilon. Now, having said that, then let's just look at, I'm not going to say anything about second perfects at this point. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as I can. Look at the meaning of the perfects by just looking at the other tenses we've studied. The future tense, which is basically something that refers to future time. The linear tenses we've looked at, which are like the imperfect, and the present, which is continuous or repeated time. A punctiliar tense, like aorist, is an action that happens from that standpoint, whereas the perfect is what? It's I'm giving you a definition of a present state from a past action, is what I've written down. A present state from a past action. And here's three English sentences that may help a little bit, because it could be a bit confusing, because the way that Mounce talks about it in respect to adding that auxiliary verb to have, that's a big recognition, isn't it? I have seen so-and-so. Well, it's just slightly obtuse, perhaps, in a way, because here's three examples. Your faith has saved you. Have you not read? And he called them. Your faith has saved you speaks of what? A present state that's resulted from a previous action. That's perfect tense. A completed state from a previous action. Actually, I picked that from Mark 5:34. Epistis su sesoken se. The faith of you has saved you. Perfect active third person singular. The second one, though, have you not read, is it sounds perfect in the sense in English because of the auxiliary verb have, but when you think about it, have you not read, it's an action, a singular action actually in the past, so it's actually, in Greek it would be aorist tense, aorist active, from Mark 12:26, uk anignote, gnosko, and then the reduction in terms of the verbal stem. There you can see that it's a third person aorist active. And then the third one, which is fairly easy, is simply what? A simple action in the past. So that would be aorist in Greek. Ekalesen autus, he called them. So I hope that helps in terms of looking at the perfect in respect to recognize it with what I call the codal system, and then looking at it in terms of the translation. Thanks.